Welcome in, guys. Farzin Vasugian here with you for another episode of the Chief Zone podcast. It is a Monday edition. We very rarely do the Chief Zone on a Monday, but had to hop on live and figured, hey, why not? Let's do a little bit of a podcast here, and we can chat it up because we've got some things to get into because we officially know who the Chiefs will be playing this weekend in the divisional round. They will be going up against the Buffalo Bills. They will visit the Buffalo Bills, and it will be for a spot in the AFC Championship game. So I think a lot of people are going to be tuning into this one. They know what kind of a non-divisional rivalry, this has turned into. So it is going to be a huge game. A lot of people going to be tuning into this one. I'm very excited about it. I know you guys are as well. I said over the weekend when I was doing my picks for this game, or for this weekend, I should say, I said that the Bills will not only dominate this game, and I don't think they necessarily dominated, and we can get into that a little bit tonight and more so on Wednesday when we do our preview podcast. But this is the matchup I wanted. And listen, I know a lot of people were saying, wait, Farzin, what about having another game at home? I don't care about that right now. I really don't. I want to see the Chiefs go on the road. And there are also a lot of people outside of Kansas City that want to see the Chiefs go on the road. So we are finally going to get that matchup that will happen this Sunday. A lot of people have been asking for Patrick Mahomes to get a road game, as if like the NFL schedules who's playing at home and who doesn't at road or playoff games. And it's like, come on. Chiefs won a lot of their regular season games, so that's why they played a lot of their games at home. And there have been some opportunities where they should have gone on the road for an AFC title game, but was not the case. So ultimately, it just wasn't in the cards for the first 5 years with Mahomes starting, and now it's the other way around. And this is also going to be the first time since January the 16th, 2016, the Chiefs will go on the road for a playoff game, almost to this exact date. In fact, tomorrow. In the calendar year 2016 to 2015 season, the Chiefs will be going on the road. The last time they did that was in Foxborough. That was against the Patriots, of course. They beat the Texans the same year the Chiefs snapped that 22-year postseason drought. Started the season 1-5, beat the Texans 30-0, and then they went on to Foxborough and they lost by 1 game. So this is going to be Kansas City's first playoff game on the road in quite some time. Obviously, it's the first one for Patrick Mahomes. I know a lot of people mentioned the Tampa Bay game, the Super Bowl 55. I know it's not a Super Bowl anyone wants to remember. People want that erased from their memories, but you can hardly call that a road game. Yes, the Patriots got to stay at home and the Chiefs had to travel, but that was obviously back when they had limited capacity at stadiums, so it didn't feel like a true home game for the Bucks in that one. So this will be Kansas City's true first road game in the postseason, I suppose. Statistically speaking, it is going to be his first road game. So, but people want to debate that. I'll let you guys debate on that. But a lot of you guys are coming into the chat on the live stream. Very much appreciated. If you guys haven't done so already, please subscribe to the podcast. If you ever miss any part of the live podcast, we always archive them on Apple, Spotify, wherever you download and listen to your podcast. So a lot of people here. Dalton mentioned short week for the Bills. And I mean, listen, it's almost like they played a Monday Night Football game and they play another game on Sunday. I was going to say, if they played on Tuesday, if this was pushed back again because of all the craziness with the weather up there in Buffalo, and we have some of that here in Kansas City, we still have some of that right now with the craziness. It is freezing outside. That I would have said, okay, this is kind of a concern for Buffalo, and I would not have been surprised if they actually would try to make some sort of an exception to push one of the divisional round games to Monday, but obviously not going to be the case. So, I'm sure some people will mention the short week for sure. I'll just say this right now: I'm not concerned with the Buffalo Bills in this one. I'm really not. So I already put this out there on X and on Facebook, and I'll say it on here right now. When I was watching this game between the Bills and Steelers, and from the moment that they kicked the ball off, I was watching this game with the assumption the Chiefs are going to play the Bills in Buffalo. I'm watching this game, and Pittsburgh's defense absolutely just all sorts of horrible. They can't tackle, whiffing on a lot of their tackles. There was an opportunity. I can't remember who the player was. One of the pass rushers had an opportunity to take Allen down to the ground for a sack. Completely missed on that. Allen barely moved, and the defender whiffed on it. Maybe you guys can remind me who that was. And then Minkah Fitzpatrick, who's one of the best defensive backs in the NFL, one of the more aggressive, hard-hitting defensive backs in the NFL, completely whiffs on, I think it was Dalton Kincaid who scored that last touchdown there. So, and right after that last touchdown of the game, Nance and Romo coming out of that commercial break after that touchdown, they even said the Steelers defense, I mean, their tackling had been awful. I mean, they didn't put it in that exact terms, like I just did, but they made it pretty clear that this is a team. By the way, no, that was who had that. Or Pittsburgh defense that struggled tackling in this game. Kansas City does not have that issue. Kansas City's defense, do they have some woes? Have they had their mistakes? Yes, for sure. And someone else was mentioning this too in one of the posts in the comment section, that Buffalo, obviously with Josh Allen, he runs the ball a lot, and the Chiefs have to be ready for that. And that is 100% the case. And I'll even go back to the Cincinnati game when the Chiefs were trailing 17-7 against the Bengals. Jake Browning was running the ball a lot more than I think a lot of people expected. Certainly was a surprise to me. It was a surprise to a lot of people. And what did the Chiefs do? They found a way to adjust. You cannot, excuse me, you cannot allow that to happen early on and then make adjustments. I know this Chiefs defense has been weird in one little way, where they tend to allow offenses to do well early in games, but then they find a way to adjust as the game goes on. This is the playoffs. You can't really allow a lot of room for error in this one. So I think when you look at the tackling, that to me is one major difference. Now, listen, I know the Steelers were banged up and all that stuff. I think the Steelers actually made it a very somewhat of a competitive game, more than I thought it was going to be. I had this being a blowout. Like, I thought this was going to be in the 30s and 40s for the Bills. But they won. A win is a win. But look, I'll just say it right now. Could you imagine if the Chiefs beat the Steelers this exact way, and what the narrative would be from people outside of Kansas City, again, how they played against a third string QB? I mean, come on, let's not pretend like that would not be a narrative a lot of Chiefs haters would lean on. But nonetheless, I digress. Another thing about the Chiefs defense that they have that the Steelers don't have, or at least didn't have for tonight, or today rather, whatever you want to call it, the Steelers, again, I understand they were missing TJ Watt, but you got to go with what you have. I mean, they don't wait for anyone to come back from injuries. The Steelers did not have a pass rush in this game. They did nothing to pressure Josh Allen in this one right here. He was sacked twice, but that was, I mean, it should have been more. And I think the Steelers had opportunities, even just with a couple of guys, even just with their defensive front rushing. But man, they didn't really do anything to rattle Josh Allen in this football game. And I'll even go back and say this, because what did I say going into the Miami Dolphins game? I said the Miami Dolphins are 1-5 this season when Tua gets sacked 3 or more times. The Chiefs only got 2 sacks on Tua. Now, they still got a win, a very one-sided win. But they did not pressure Tua and go after him the way I thought they were going to go after him in Saturday's game. Now, I think they probably could have gotten away with it because the Dolphins offense played a pretty bad game in general. The only time they had anything going was that 53-yard touchdown pass to Tyreek Hill in the first half. And then, in the fourth quarter, when the game was pretty much out of reach and over, that's when the Dolphins really got going. So obviously garbage time stats is what I'm referring to. So prior to garbage time activity, the one thing the Dolphins had was that 53-yard touchdown pass. I'm telling you right now, the only 2 plays that worked in favor of the Dolphins. Number one was that touchdown to Tyreek, and number two was the penalty on Jawan Taylor, the block in the back that nullified Rashee Rice's second touchdown. So when your second best play comes from the opposing team's mistakes, and listen, you never apologize for another team's mishaps or errors. You have to capitalize on that, and they did, and they held the Chiefs to a field goal after that. So that's what you're supposed to do. But the Chiefs didn't let Miami do a lot, and this is a Miami team that had done a lot of good things. Now, Buffalo obviously beat Miami twice, and they handled that Miami offense pretty damn well, just like how the Chiefs have in the two times they played Miami. The Chiefs and the Bills getting ready for this. One thing they do have in common coming into this matchup is that they both beat the Dolphins twice. Now, I don't think that's like a huge deal. I'm not saying that's a big narrative going into the game, but I just kind of realized that going into this game here. So we talked about the Chiefs defense and how much they differ from the Steelers defense. Number one is the tackling on Kansas City side is way better than Pittsburgh's. And number two, pressuring the quarterback. And by the way, I never finished my point about the Chiefs getting only 2 sacks on Tua. The one thing about this Chiefs team that I noticed they didn't do a lot of, they did not have a lot of blitz packages in this game. They didn't have a lot of players in the secondary go after the quarterback. Spags loves to send McDuffie, Reed, sometimes even Jalen Watson to go after opposing quarterbacks. And they did not do a lot of that in Saturday's win over the Dolphins. You absolutely must do that in this game. I mean, whatever it takes to rattle Josh Allen, and you're going up against a very good Buffalo offensive line. I think Nance and Romo mentioned that this is the offensive line that had played the most snaps together, which is a huge deal. That's always going to be a big deal going into a game. Looking at the last time the Chiefs and Bills played, and I'll go to the Chiefs offense because I know we've been spending a lot of time talking about the Chiefs defense and how they match up against Buffalo's offense. When you look at the first time these two teams played on December the 10th, obviously everyone remembers how that ended. But if you guys remember the beginning of that game, the Bills got off to a 14-0 lead. And this is why I'm saying Kansas City's defense can't allow starts like this. They did this a couple of weeks ago against the Cincinnati Bengals. Yes, they do a great job of making adjustments, but I'm just worried that one of these games, and the playoffs are not the best time to afford something like this to happen. You might be able to make adjustments, but the opposing team will also try to counter those adjustments with different adjustments of their own and try to prevent Kansas City from trying to slow them down. Because if the Chiefs defense gets off to a great start, they will take that Buffalo crowd out of it. And listen, I don't know what the forecast is going to be for Buffalo. We'll talk about that as the week goes on. But if they're snowman, they're going to be throwing snow at the Chiefs pass catchers anytime Mahomes tries to throw a pass in the end zone. You may not like it, but that's just the way it works. And yeah, they're going to warn the fans about throwing a flag and all that, but they're not going to actually do that. That's if there's snow. I don't know if there really will be or not. I don't know. Maybe the snow that you saw in the seats might still be there for the next game. Hopefully not, but we'll see from there. But again, Allen got off to a really good start against the Chiefs when these two teams played the first time. He had that touchdown pass to James Cook. And then Allen ran for another touchdown in the first half. So that is those were the only 2 touchdowns Josh Allen got against Kansas City. So this is going to be one of those games where the defense does need to get off to a better start. The Chiefs defense has been great all year, no question about it. But the one thing they need to be doing better of is getting off to better starts. More interceptions, more forced turnovers would be nice, but they just really haven't had a lot of that. I had a friend of mine text me. He's a big Arizona Cardinals fan, and he said, you guys are for sure getting 3 interceptions against Josh Allen. I'm like, yeah, I don't know about that. But I suppose if anyone could let something like that happen, it is Josh Allen, because as much as he's good at scoring, he's also very good at turning the ball over a lot. In these last 2 years, a lot of people thought he would improve on that this year. That's not been the case. Yes, he did turn into a massive scoring machine as the Bills surged after a very weird start to their season. And what was it? They were like 6-6 before the Chiefs and Bills played. Yeah, and they've gone on a tear since then. So I'm very curious to see just how this Chiefs team tries to tries to prepare for Sunday's game. Oh, this is very interesting. So I am getting a text. Dangerously cold wildcard game at Arrowhead. This is from KCTV5. This just came up here. 69 calls were made to the KC Fire Department. Half were hypothermia, 15 taken to the hospital, 3 treated for frostbite, 7 treated for hypothermia. I'm wondering if the guy who was like shirtless front row, I mean, hopefully he's doing well. A lot of people have been commenting on my post. They're asking, how's that guy doing? We need a wellness check on him. But nonetheless, we don't really need to get into that. Don't want to look at the rear view mirror. We want to look at the front, looking straight ahead. Okay, let's go to the offense because we've spent a lot of time talking about the Chiefs defense and what they need to do in this one, which again, pressure. Do what you've been essentially doing all year long and have a QB spy for crying out loud against Josh Allen. Otherwise, what Jake Browning did against the Chiefs, running the football early on before the Chiefs made that adjustment, Josh Allen can do way better than that. Whenever Josh Allen has a bad game passing the ball, he tends to run much more and does a good job of that. He did that in the Patriots game. The most recent Patriots game. Obviously, the first time they lost to the Patriots, but second time around, they got that win, but not a good game passing for him. So that's something they need to be ready for. And this one, 21 of 30, 203 yards, 3 touchdowns, was sacked just twice. Now, going over to the Chiefs offense, this is where I think a lot of people have their concerns, a lot of questions there, and that is completely fair here. Let me just put it like this, and I know easier said than done, right? But I will still put it like this. Take care of the damn football. I mean, that right there has to be the big key. Be smart with the football. I think what Mahomes did in that let's look at that Philadelphia Eagles game on Monday Night Football. Yes, the Marquez Valdes-Scantling drop. Everyone remembers that. But nobody talks about the 2 key players for the Chiefs offense, which is Mahomes and Kelsey, and how careless they were with the football in that game. Specifically, what I'm referring to is early on in the game, Mahomes, and I think Kevin Byard deserves some credit because he made a great play on this interception here. But he was trying to find Justin Watson for the second time in the game early on in the first half, and Byard made a great play swiping that pass from Mahomes in the end zone. And then in the second half, when the Chiefs had a really good drive going, they get the ball to Kelsey, and I can't remember if they were in the red zone or not exactly, but they were they were within striking distance, and Kelsey fumbles the football in a time where you could not afford something like that. So to me, taking care of the football is very important. And Kelsey, I know we talk about the wide receivers a lot and a lot of the drops they've committed. I mean, Kelsey deserves to be part of that discussion as well. He has not done the best job taking care of the football this year. So that is something that they need to definitely be ready for. By the way, a lot of you guys are mentioning Rashee Rice. And by the way, I've been saying his name incorrectly. And I think Sam McDowell of the Kansas City Star has been the only one to actually say it correctly. So it is Rashee Rice. I might say Rashee again. So if I do, I apologize, but I'll try to catch myself and correct that. But it is Rashee Rice. That is how you say it. Like R-A-W, Rashee Rice. But you guys are mentioning Rashee Rice. Yeah, obviously he had a monster game against the Dolphins and needs to have another similar game again. Offensive tackle play, I thought was pretty good. Yes, the Juwan Taylor penalty nullifying Rice's second touchdown. That was that's a killer right there. You can't do those kinds of. You definitely cannot afford those kinds of penalties against a team like Buffalo. And I think that was noted during the game when he committed the penalty. I think Jason Garrett was the one saying you don't even need to be doing that because there's no way that defender was even going to catch. I can't remember if it was Justin Houston or who. There's no way you're even going to catch Rashee Rice, excuse me. See, I just did it on that play right there. No reason to do it whatsoever, but it is a penalty and it had to be called. And I've seen a couple of you guys mention this in the chat already. Not enough people though. Isaiah Pacheco, run the damn ball. Something Kansas City has done a great job doing recently with Isaiah Pacheco. Isaiah Pacheco has been a huge key for Kansas City. He was pretty big in that Raiders game. Yeah, the Chiefs didn't do very well allowing those 2 defensive scores in 7 seconds. Still can't believe that one. But in that game, whenever they had Pacheco before his injury, he played pretty damn well. He played pretty damn well before that, until that injury, I should say. And then the following week against the Bengals, Rice did have that big catch and run play, but overall, it was Pacheco that really lifted this team and allowed them to score a lot of field goals. And I know a lot of people love to mention field goals and how the Chiefs have been surviving through Harrison Butker. These are the same people that complained about the Chiefs not scoring. So as far as I'm concerned, the Chiefs have been making improvements in the right direction the past few weeks, including during the playoff. By the way, in the freezing cold, mind you, the Chiefs won 26-7. But the Chiefs are scoring more, and I'm not forget about the Chargers game. Okay, that was a preseason game. And this, whenever you see the Chiefs starters against opposing team starters, you're seeing the Chiefs score more in the 20s. That is something the Chiefs have struggled doing this year. A lot of people have loved bringing that up, and the Chiefs have been better about that. Now, the important thing about Isaiah Pacheco to mention in this one, how did he do the last time he played against the Bills? Anyone remember that? I'll tell you the stat line. 0 yards, 0 touchdowns, 0 touches. Isaiah Pacheco didn't even play in this game. He was dealing with that shoulder injury, taking care of that, had that surgery cleanup. And ever since he's came back, he's been huge for Kansas City's offense. They've been playing much better since he got back. So I'm looking at Kansas City right now. And when you look back at that game, and we all know how it ended, they didn't have Isaiah Pacheco in that game. They're going to have Isaiah Pacheco this week. And let me just read you the running stats real quickly. Clyde Edwards-Helaire, 11 runs for 39 yards. Jerick McKinnon, who's not going to be available in this game, 4 for 19 and a touchdown. Kadarius Toney had 2 for 16. I think the no, never mind. I thought I was about to say the play where Kelsey lateraled it, I think that counts as rushing yards, but no, I mean, I completely forgot that play does not count for reasons that we don't want to get into. But that those were your running numbers. And by the way, Mahomes only ran 1 time in that game for 8 yards. And Mahomes, I think, I know this team, what's been their bread and butter? Throwing the ball. Even without Tyreek Hill last year, Mahomes had more yards than everybody. But this year, it just hasn't been there for the Chiefs. And Mahomes has recently been using his feet more, taking advantage of open lanes and running. That's what you're supposed to do, and especially when things are not there, because it hasn't been great for the Chiefs. Only ran twice last week, but did run for 41 yards, including that 28-yard run where he was so close to running and cracked his helmet open, which I still can't believe. Never seen that before. Didn't see him do it much in the Cincinnati game. In the Raiders game, ran 10 times for 53 yards. Running that much is not ideal, but if it helps you win at the end of the day, hey, nothing wrong with that whatsoever. So no problems trying to take advantage of that. But look, Isaiah Pacheco will be available for this one. That is going to be the big difference in this matchup. Pacheco is not available, and he is going to be ready for this one, unless something happens at practice. Hopefully not. And that's the other thing I wanted to point out is the Chiefs got to have a good week of practice. Keep everyone healthy. Whatever weaknesses you have that you want to try to improve on and utilize in this game, work on that. Do what you got to do, and then get ready. Yeah, it's going to be cold as hell. Guess what? It's cold in Kansas City right now. It's freezing. You guys don't know this. Anyone that watched the game already knows this. So all Kansas City has to do is just play their game. And I think what they did in that Cincinnati game, and Cincinnati did this too early on before the Chiefs shut them down the rest of the game when it was 17-7, short passes, running the ball, nothing wrong with that. And then once you wear out an opposing defense, those deep plays will come. Just catch the ball. Just catch the ball. That's it. Ball security is going to be huge for both teams. If I'm not mistaken, I think Allen and Mahomes both have the same number of interceptions this year. Let me just pull that up to be accurate with that one, because the point I'm trying to make is both teams, they've been kind of they've been turning the ball over a lot this year. These are postseason numbers, not what I want. Bear with me one moment here, because with both teams committing a lot of turnovers this year, it is going to come down to who takes care of the football the most. Josh Allen has 18. Mahomes has 14. I mixed up Mahomes with Tua because of all the prep from last week. I guess I must have mixed Allen with Tua. So Allen has 18 interceptions. That's the second most. If you're wondering who's first, it's Sam Howell. How many fumbles has Josh Allen lost? We can find that out real quickly as well, because, and obviously, listen, I'm just doing this right away after the Steelers game. We'll be doing a much more in-depth breakdown on Wednesday night's podcast, which, by the way, will be 7 o'clock Central Time on the Chiefs Zone. And if you missed the podcast live on Facebook and YouTube, then we will have it archived for you right away on Apple and Spotify and all those other places where you can download and listen to podcasts. By the way, before I forget, real quickly, while I'm looking up this Josh Allen thing, please subscribe to the Chiefs Zone YouTube page. I'm gonna start doing a lot of video content on there. We have all of our live shows on there as well. So if you prefer to listen to the podcast through YouTube, there's always that option. But ultimately, we are going to start doing a lot more video content on there. So please, if you haven't already, go to youtube.com/@thechiefszone, and we're going to start putting out a lot of video content on there, as well as the Chiefs Zone's Instagram page. So if you guys could give that a follow or a subscribe, whatever they call it, that would be greatly appreciated. By the way, looking at Allen, he also had lost 3 fumbles this year. So he does have the most turnovers committed this year by anyone. And listen, obviously the Eagles run the tush push, brotherly shove, whatever you want to call it, better than anyone else. But Allen does have 57 first downs through the ground. That is more than their running back, James Cook, who rushed for more than 1,100 yards. Both Allen and Cook averaging 4.7 yards per run. Well, obviously, again, when a quarterback scrambles, it's different than when a running back does it. And I think it'd be higher if they didn't do the quarterback sneak or the tush push often with Allen. That brings down his average a bit, but in general, he loves to run a lot. His longest run of the year is for 23 yards, and that is, that's a killer right there. You gotta have a quarterback spy in this game. Nick Bolton and Willie Gay, I think those two guys, and surely Drew Tranquil as well, those two are going to be very important for Kansas City's defense this year, and trying to maintain Allen and not let him go off and have a monster game. That is something that the Chiefs need to be ready for. You love YouTube. Good. I love that you love YouTube. Yeah, we're going to be doing a lot of video content on the Facebook page, on the YouTube page, TikTok, and Instagram. That is one of the things I want to do more of this year. Obviously, even going into the off season, we're going to be doing a lot of video content, and then going into next season and so on and so forth, hopefully. So been focusing a lot on the Facebook page, and I do want to definitely expand the podcast more. So yeah, please subscribe to the YouTube if you haven't done so already. Okay. As far as, the game, I don't have a lot of other thoughts. I'll save them for Wednesday night. I'll just say this right now. Yeah, sure, the Bills looked good. Got off to a great start in the first half, but they didn't really do much to capitalize in the second half. And part of me wonders if maybe Sean McDermott does that kind of thing to not put a lot on film and try to save it against Kansas City. And listen, I'd be willing to bet Andy Reid did the same thing, because both the Dolphins and the Steelers were not big threats to their opponents for wild card weekend. Just look at the score. I know the Steelers, it looks closer when you look at it, but it's not as close as it looks. If you don't have that blocked field goal right there, right before halftime, and even then, yeah, sure, Pittsburgh was close a couple of times. Obviously had that red zone interception that he threw in the end zone. But still, you can just go off how you did at the end of the day. So sorry about that. So in general, I just think this this Buffalo team, yeah, they do a lot of good things on offense. But when they face a defense like Kansas City's, and I don't think they've had a lot of challenges like that this year, Josh Allen's going to run into some trouble. Josh Allen is going to have a difficult time in this football game. I am not watching the Monday night game. I'm getting texts from people because I'll text a few people during the game and talk about whatever game is on. But I don't know what's going on in this game. It's 0-0. Okay, it's only been a couple minutes. I'm getting texts like the game is over, almost as if some crazy things have happened. I do want to go back to the Pacheco thing one moment here. The Bills are 15th in running the ball or run defense. So that right there to me, average run defense right there. And you got a running back in Pacheco who loves these head-on collisions for whatever reason against defenders there. So that to me is very important. They've got to be better about that. I think the Chiefs defense will do what they've been doing all year long. I have no concerns there. The offense has got to play better, and I think they have been doing better the past couple of games. They've got to play their best game this Sunday, 100%. And listen, I'll just say this right now, and I'm not a moral victories guy. But I will say this, given how the season has gone with the wide receivers and the offense, if the Chiefs reach the AFC title game, and again, don't get me wrong, Super Bowl is the standard, always, even right now with the offensive woes. If the Chiefs reach the AFC title game, I can't say I'd be upset if the Chiefs were to lose that game. I'll probably still pick them to win and still expect them to win because of the defense if the Chiefs do advance, and I think they will. But given the issues and how much people love to pick apart the Chiefs offense, if the Chiefs offense reaches the AFC title game, if they are one of the last four teams in the NFL, if they're in the final four of the NFL this year, what does that say about the rest of the NFL? The fact that the Chiefs offense is so bad and that they're right now one of the final 8 teams, and they can be one of the last 4 teams now. Yeah, a lot of you guys are talking about running the ball. That's going to be big. Yeah, Bell's had some injuries in this one. Now we'll see how things turn out Wednesday. So because it's a Sunday game, we're going to have a regular, NFL week for the Chiefs, where you have an off day Tuesday. So the Chiefs will not be practicing Tuesday. The coaches for sure. Listen, I think if you're a Chiefs coach, you should already be studying this game and more. You have to be ready for both Houston and Buffalo, but I'm sure they spent more time focusing on Buffalo game film than they did on Houston game film, because it's the Steelers. Not to take any team lightly, but you also have to do your job and do it properly so you can be ready for practice week. Yeah, no Peacock, no Paramount Plus, no Peacock, none of that. I've had people ask. People are asking, is this week's game going to be on Peacock? No, no, not the case. So you're good there, folks. You're going to be good there. Mary says, Farzine, these refs are missing a lot of calls this year. Yeah, this has been a really bad year for officiating. Okay, let me just say something, because I said this last year, and a lot of people criticized me for this. Why is it that this media, and listen, I think, I know we can spend hours talking about officiating, okay? We can also spend a lot of time talking about today's journalism in the world, specifically the United States. Whenever Roger Goodell meets with the media, which is almost never, it's like, NFL owners meeting and Super Bowl week and the draft week and a couple other special events here and there. But yet he requires coaches and players to be available to the media every week, which makes no sense. So when you have all of these issues that come up every single week, and the commissioner is nowhere to be found to answer for these problems, and then when it was time to speak to Goodell, what does he say in the week of the Super Bowl last year? He says, I think officiating is the best it's ever been. And now we have a lot of people, and listen, it's not just one or two fan bases. It is every single fan bases. It's Kansas City. It is the Raiders, it is the Bengals fan base, it is the Chargers. Oh no, wait, the Chargers don't have fans. Every single fan base is complaining and bitching and moaning about officiating. And Roger Goodell just sits in the back with his millions and millions, probably billions of dollars, and doesn't give a shit about anything. He just sits there and defends the refs and says, oh, last year it was, this is the best they've ever been. And now it's, they have a tough job, which I agree, it is a tough job. But ultimately, you're the commissioner. Listen, we're in the year 2024, okay? With HD cameras and QLED and OLED quality picture and the Pylon camera, which networks love to use for replays, all of these, angles and cameras we have. It's far bigger than it was 30, 40 years ago, okay? And obviously, instant replay hasn't been around since the beginning of the sport. That's obviously been added. But with all these angles you have, if there are bad calls or missed calls, I think they need to be challengeable. I mean, you have the referees in today's game, they're unsure about a certain call, and they're waiting on New York to get involved on certain things. So can we, at the end of the day, it's not a very difficult adjustment to make. It's really not, but the NFL doesn't want to do it. And listen, I'll just say this right now, because what's that saying? There's no such thing as bad publicity, something like that. Bad publicity is good publicity. I think the NFL kind of uses that as its mantra behind closed doors, because whenever the Kadarius Toney thing happened, and listen, that was of course a correct penalty, but with Von Miller, like 2 plays later being offsides, not being called, that is a valid complaint there. And then the situation in Detroit, where you're not really sure who checked in, who did, or who thought they did, all these things. I think the NFL thrives off that. They love that, people complain about officiating. Even in that AFC Championship game, when Bengals are fully convinced that there was a 5th down when there wasn't, and it was clearly explained why, but they don't want to ever look at the facts because that's just that fan base. Even then, when there's no focus on the clarification, the NFL loves that. They love the drama and everything that comes with that. Same thing with the holding call, whether you agree with it or not. The NFL thrives off that shit. Yes, if the Texans do beat not the Steelers, the Ravens, and if the Chiefs beat the Bills, oh boy, you're going to be hearing a lot of people talk about how rigged the NFL is and how the Chiefs get to host their AFC Arrowhead Invitational for a 6th year in a row. I don't think that's going to happen. I think the Chiefs will. I think the Chiefs are going to go visit Baltimore. I'll just say that right now. I think the Ravens-Texans game, that is going to be a better game than Chiefs-Bills. I'll say that right now. I agree with you, Robert. I wish they would allow penalty challenges. Listen, you can actually challenge a couple of penalties. If there is a 12th man on the field and if the referees miss it on the defense, you can challenge that. And there are like a couple of other weird things you can challenge on penalties. If that's the case, why can a holding call not be challenged? Why can a pass interference call not be challenged? Roughing of the passer, or an illegal block in the back. Why can those things not be challenged? Again, we're in the year 2024. We have all the camera angles that the NFL loves to brag about, especially with their TV contracts. And part of the reason they have these big TV contracts is because of the quality and the amount of camera angles they have. Again, it's not like it was 30, 40 years ago, but I don't know. The NFL prefers the drama that comes with it instead, because let's be honest, it does have an impact. It absolutely does. By the way, let me just say this. There is a report from the New York Post that the NFL wants to have a stake in ESPN. I'm just going to say this right now. That might be one of the worst things we could have happen in this country, for a corporation to have control over a media entity. Wow, you can control a lot of narratives right there. You absolutely can. Could you imagine, and I don't want to get too much into this because I know it's political and all, but could you imagine if the White House, regardless who the president is, whether it's a Republican or a Democrat, they had control and authority over a media outlet? Wow. That's not good. I mean, obviously the NFL is not as serious as politics, but that is not something. I mean, that would be a horrible day for the world of journalism. Even though journalism has died quite a lot over the years, this would be a new low. That would not be a good thing whatsoever here. It is 3rd and 2 for the Eagles. What are they going to do? No AJ Brown on this one. Snap the damn ball. Come on. Oh, look at that pressure right there. Look at that throw. Yikes. Okay. Forcing them to punt. Bucks off to a good start so far. They get a touchdown, man. This Eagles team has been trending in the wrong direction lately. Obviously, for those of you listening to the podcast version, you'll know the score by now. Yeah, I agree with you, Robert. If they can allow more of these, it'll make a difference. Listen, I've said this before, like, allow everything to be challenged and still keep the same rules. You only get 2 challenges and you get a third if the first 2 are correct. And I've had people say, well, it's going to make games longer if they can challenge any play. Okay, but what do you want to do? You want to complain about how long games are, or do you want to complain about bad and missed calls? Because everybody complains about bad and missed calls. So it's a very easy fix. It really is. Okay, so those are my thoughts on Chiefs Bills. Listen, I don't know who's. I kind of hope Carl Cheffers is the referee. I'll just say it right now. I hope he is. So let's have the rematch in Buffalo this time with the same referee, and let's go win that shit. Let's go win that. Real quickly before I leave, I did want to bring this up because this was a huge deal during the during the Bills and Steelers game. Willie Gay. Now, let me just be clear. Willie Gay put out a post on X, formerly known as Twitter, and I guess there were a lot of people questioning, including me, whether or not that was really Willie Gay who tweeted, because the account was created in December, a month ago, and it only has like 1,000 followers. I'm sure it has more followers now because of the tweet he put out that has a lot of people talking. But anyway, according to Charles Goldman, it is indeed him. And I think a lot of people think it is him because the Chiefs follow him, and so do a couple of players on the team. So people pretty much think it is him. But during the game, he wrote out a post saying, "It's looking like I've played probably my last game in Arrowhead." Obviously, he's referring to the Bills beating the Steelers and how it's very unlikely that the Ravens lose to the Texans. Damn, I'm going to miss that place. Nothing like it. Let's go get this ring to end it the right way. So he's saying he's played his last game in Arrowhead. And I think Chris Jones has even kind of alluded, saying he said in his press conference that this might be the Dolphins game is probably his last game at Arrowhead. I think a lot of people are aware of the Chris Jones thing. He's gonna cost you a lot. Nobody wants Chris Jones gone, but he's gonna cost you a damn lot. Willie Gay has played really very good football for the Chiefs defense. And I think a very underrated linebacker in the NFL who, for sure, if teams do their homework, they're going to be willing to pay a linebacker like Willie Gay and give him a 3, 4, maybe 5-year deal, which he is very more than deserving of. But if that really is Willie Gay who posted this, why would you do this during the week? Because here's what happens. And I understand players are emotional and they say certain things, but here's what happens. You say this, and then what happens? Andy Reid is going to be asked about it. Some of the defensive players are going to be asked about it this week. You put your entire team, including your coaches, and I'll even add these people, the ones that we don't ever talk about, your public relations department. They now have to come up with a strategy as to how you're going to respond to these questions, because you know damn well that Andy Reid's going to be asked about this. And you know damn well that whenever the Chiefs media gets an opportunity to go visit the Chiefs locker room on Thursday, they will look for Willie Gay, and they will probably look for Chris Jones and a couple of other defensive players and ask them about that tweet, or maybe ask them about, could this be your last year? Could this be your last year? It's like, you don't ever want to, you don't ever want to have that conversation specifically when you're getting ready for your biggest game of the year. I mean, this is going to be a huge rematch. We all know that. We just went over it for about 30 minutes. But to bring that up, yeah, a lot of you guys are saying distraction. Yeah, to bring that up now, I get it. Like, he wanted to maybe say goodbye because he didn't maybe have a proper goodbye Saturday. And it is sad to think about the fact that guys like Willie Gay and Chris Jones, and maybe even MVS might play their last game. Listen, I know MVS is not loved right now, but this guy was he was a hero in the AFC Championship game last year, which, by the way, they replayed yesterday because CBS had nothing to air from 12 to 3. So they chose to air last year's AFC Championship game, which was a lot of fun to watch. And my God, it was pretty cool watching MVS catch passes. There might be some guys that might have played their last game as a Chief. I know there's been speculation on Kelsey. He kind of shut that down last week, but you still never know at the end of the day. There's a lot to get into. Chris says he's going to cost too much. Snead should be a bigger priority. A shutdown corner is rare. Jones money can be used on a wide receiver. Yes. Okay. So let me, this is just off the top of my head here, but I will just say this right now. Priority number one, during training camp, I said priority number one needs to be extending Nick Bolton and the two offensive linemen, Creed Humphrey and Trey Smith. Those three guys you drafted in 2021 outside of the first round. And I'll get to why that's important in a minute for a couple of reasons. Number one, they're all going to be entering the final year of their contracts. So they're all eligible for new deals. With Nick Bolton's injury, could the Chiefs maybe just stick with him for his last year on that rookie deal? Maybe. But guys like Creed Humphrey and Trey Smith, who have been awesome since day one, both of them were drafted outside of the first round, as I mentioned a moment ago. So they're not making as much money. Listen, first round draft picks aren't making a lot of money either, but they're making more than second round picks and sixth round picks, which is Bolton and Humphrey were second round picks, and Trey Smith was a sixth round pick. So those guys 100% not only want new deals, they're going to want a lot of money. And you're going to have to, as Chris kind of alluded to, you're going to either have to just let Chris Jones walk, or maybe someone also mentioned earlier, franchise. Yeah, Tony said franchise Jones and trade him. Those are your options. Look, again, nobody wants Chris Jones gone. I do not want to see the day when Chris Jones is wearing another team's jersey. That will be a very shitty day, as the Bucs are up 10-0. Speaking of shitty days for the Eagles right now, at least. No one wants to see that day, but the NFL is a business. There is a salary cap. The salary cap is a real thing for sure. L'Jarius Sneed is gonna cost you a pretty penny. Creed Humphrey will. Trey Smith will. Nick Bolton will. You're gonna have to probably let Chris Jones walk. Trade him if you can. Franchise tag him and trade him if you can. Get something good from him. Marquez Valdes-Scantling is probably going to have to be a cap casualty cut, and I don't think anyone's going to lose sleep over that. And I'm sure the Chiefs will attempt to restructure Jawaan Taylor's contract. I don't think he'll agree to it because you want the money, okay? Anyone would. Joey says, I think they let Smith walk if he wants too much. They drafted O-line a lot late rounds in past few years. Yeah, Joey, but by the way, they won't let him walk this offseason because he still has one more year left in his rookie deal, but they're going to be eligible for new deals is what I'm trying to say. I don't know if I agree with letting him walk. Listen, I know what you're saying. Look, the Chiefs have had great luck drafting interior offensive linemen. Rodney Hudson, Mitch Morse, Creed Humphrey. I mean, they've been hitting home runs in the second round each time, but you're not going to get lucky every single time. As much as I believe in the Chiefs scouting department, which Brett Veach has been a part of for many years and now is general manager, you're not going to hit every single time. It's just, you don't get always that lucky. As much as I've been saying Brett Veach, I know the wide receivers haven't been good, but as much as he has drafted very well, like, you will have unlucky drafts at times. You will. So That's my biggest concern there. You don't let a guy like Trey Smith walk. In that game against Miami, the playoff game, the very like first or second snap, he's already mauling dudes. I would rather get hit by a train than get hit by Trey Smith. I would rather be with Trey Smith than be against Trey Smith. Same goes for Creed Humphrey and Joe Thuney. I know Joe Thuney, they've restructured his deal a couple of times, but man, I hope they can keep all of them, because look, priority number one should always be protecting your franchise quarterback. If you do not have an offensive line, Patrick Mahomes is useless. Super Bowl 55 proved that. And I'm not saying Mahomes was terrible in that game. I thought he did everything possible to put the team in position to win. But running for your life the entire time, I mean, it just hurt the Chiefs. Robert, I'd as much as I would love that, anyone would, to get Marvin Harrison Jr. trading Chris Jones to move up. I don't think a team is going to trade for a guy, a defensive tackle in his early 30s. Might be very difficult to pull off there. I will say this: if the Chiefs can get just a first-round draft pick for Chris Jones, do it. I don't need a big overhaul like the Tyreek Hill trade. If you can get a first-round draft pick, cool. If there's another team willing to offer like a second and maybe a third, okay, worth considering, but I'll take the first over the second and third. The Chiefs have options this year. There are ways. And by the way, some people mentioning Patrick Mahomes' contract. Look, I've been saying this for several weeks now. Every quarterback, whether you have won 2 MVPs and 2 Super Bowls, or whether you are overpaid and you always get injured and you've never won a Super Bowl and you're ringless, all these quarterbacks are overpaid. Daniel Jones was overpaid. I don't know why. Lamar Jackson is 1-3 or 1-4 in the playoffs. He is damn well overpaid. A lot of these guys are overpaid. A lot of them. Okay. A lot of guys are overpaid, including Mahomes. At least with Mahomes, yeah, sure, he's won you 2 Super Bowls, but he's also overpaid, man. These quarterback contracts are getting way out of hand. I don't blame running backs for being pissed one bit. Yeah, I would be pissed off too. You're over here, not getting the money you want. Meanwhile, Justin Herbert, who has yet to win a playoff game, just hit the bank. And then what was it in the offseason? Like every couple of weeks, there was like a new highest paid quarterback. And who knows what will happen in the next couple of years. But I don't know. Yeah, the Chiefs definitely have some things to think about this. I will say this. I think that this offseason will be Brett Veach's toughest offseason, because I think you're going to have to make some difficult decisions. You're going to have to make some cap casualty cuts. You're going to need to attempt to restructure Jawan Taylor's contract. You're going to have to do some things. You're going to have to do a lot of things to try to keep this football team intact, because this defense, as great as it's been and how much they've helped the offense, you got to keep that defensive unit together. I think it's fair to say the Chiefs are going to be very well focused on a heavy loaded offensive draft, and also in free agency, targeting a lot of offensive players. They've got options this year. This is a very good year to go after offensive players. So the Chiefs definitely can make some fixes this offseason for sure. So we'll have to see about that. Peyton Manning just said he was bringing Snead to the Pro Bowl as his coach's pick. Oh, okay. Well, I don't think that. I mean, yeah, sure, you're an alternate, but I don't think that will count as like an actual Pro Bowl in your resume. I could be wrong. Some people do, some don't. But I don't know. That's not anything I care about too much. Alonda's asking, so is Willie Gay leaving? Supposedly, that's kind of the direction he's leaning towards. My guess is his agent has been in contact with the Chiefs, and they just are being realistic and honest and understanding that the Chiefs need to focus elsewhere, and they're trying to retain other guys that might cost a lot. If Willie Gay is saying this, which I don't like the timing of it, but it kind of tells me, in a sense, like I just have this hunch that it probably points towards the Chiefs being in active conversations with L'Jarius Sneed's agent. That is huge. Again, that's just what I think. I'd like to think that's an educated guess. So we will see. Oh, that goes right off the hands of that tight end right there. Man, look at Jalen Hurts' face. He is not happy. I don't know what the hell happened. Was that a turnover on down or what? Oh, they punted. Okay. Wow. This Eagles team, man. That's a rematch I would love right now. Chiefs Eagles. But no, that's not how football works. All right, guys, I am out of here. Farzin Vousoughian here. Thank you for taking the time to watch this live podcast on a Monday. We hardly do podcasts on Monday. So thank you guys for tuning in while the playoff game is on. You guys are awesome. You guys are the best. You really are. If you missed any part of the podcast of the live show, you can listen to the archive podcast on Apple, Spotify, and everywhere else you can download and listen to podcasts. One last thing before I go. I mentioned this earlier, so if you're coming in late and you didn't hear me at the beginning, please subscribe to the YouTube channel. It is youtube.com/@thechiefszone. If you listen to the podcast version, I actually have a link of it in the podcast description. So please look for that and subscribe, because we're going to start doing a lot of video content on Facebook, on Instagram, on TikTok, and on YouTube. And obviously, in order to do all of this, we're going to need a lot of viewers. Otherwise, these videos are kind of pointless. So please subscribe to the YouTube channel. Again, youtube.com/@thechiefszone. All right, guys. Again, thank you for a good night of interactions here on kind of it was a pop-up podcast. So greatly appreciate all of you guys. Okay, guys, I'm out of here. I will talk to you guys live Wednesday, 7 Central. Chiefs, Bills, preview and prediction. Talk to you all then. Take care.